I think it's 6 o'clock. We got everybody right. I think we're probably ready, huh?
Good?
Yep.
Great. Then we
think
will
so.
I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I have the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of
The United States of America.
Okay.
To the republic
To the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to just take a moment, have a moment of silence for everyone who has been lost during this pandemic, and to send some strength to everyone on the front lines, all our healthcare professionals and everyone out there doing the best they can, including our teachers, administrators, everyone, to get us all through this. All right, thank you. Welcome to our first virtual Board of Education meeting. I'd like to begin tonight by moving to accept tonight's agenda for April 21st, 2020. If I may have a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. 7-0. Okay.
You know, for those out there watching, we did discuss, voting. We are going to, vote by, as we normally do. We are going to try to give a thumbs up just so that Marissa can keep track. We will also then ask if anyone is opposed, which would definitely make it easy. So Marissa, so that was approved, carried
Correct.
unanimously.
Yes.
7-0. Okay.
Yep.
If at any time you need, just stop us and we'll go over it again.
Perfect.
All right. Do we have any community comments? If there's any members of the community that would like to comment at this time, you can add it, with the chat, and we will turn you on so that you can address the board. We would ask that all of our normal requirements, keeping it under 3 minutes, everything that's listed on the agenda be followed. Did anyone wish to say anything to the board? Marissa, you got anything?
I have no community comments. Nope.
Excellent. We will move on. Committee schedules and reports. Pretty light. Our next work session is May 5th, and our next Board of Education meeting will be May 26th, and those will, as of right now, those will be virtual meetings as we are doing tonight. Administrative reports for the PEC, IEC, middle school, and high school are all submitted in writing, so everyone should have had an opportunity to catch up on those. Dr. Lyon, we would have you comment now if you wish. Nick, can we unmute Heather?
There we go. Hi.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, everyone. I just want to let the board know how hard everyone is working to create what the state requires for continuity of learning. It's the notion that even though we're not in session, that we're still providing educational opportunities to our students. Across the district, our peer coordinators meet at least weekly with each of the building principals. Some meetings are also had with multiple buildings, depending on conversations, for example, how to address grading for special areas. We wanted continuity there as much as possible. The teachers are working very hard to ensure that learning opportunities are in place for students and that students and families are supported. So there's numerous contacts that are being made between the district and families be it through things like Seesaw, K-5, and Google Classroom 6 through 12. We're also making phone calls home, doing Zoom or Google Hangout meetings between teachers to create consistency at grade levels or in content areas, as well as with families. Nick Hill has been hard at work as well, ensuring that students and families have technology needs being met as well. That's the basics of it. Are there any specific questions from the board regarding the continuity of learning?
Anyone? No, I think you've been keeping us really well apprised, and I feel confident in what we're doing. Anyone else? Okay, all right, thanks.
I just want to add one more thing, which is new learning will start as of May 1st, and that new learning will be, we have and we will continue to provide students with feedback so that students are informed about how they're doing with their work. In other words, we don't want students doing it incorrectly and not knowing that they're doing work incorrectly. So we want to give them feedback. And when they're doing it correctly and well, we want them to have that feedback as well. So that will continue to happen throughout the time that we are in this continuity of learning situation.
I did
Thank
want
you
to
so
comment
much.
that I looked at the results of the survey about how the families are feeling about what's been going on. And I was very pleased to see that most of our families really do feel like they have what they need. So it looks like things are going well for our community.
We were happy to see that too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Heather, Dr. Grupka.
Hi. So we've been busy just doing the general business office functions and then adding all the fun extras that we're working on. So we're delivering lunches 3 days a week, but we are providing lunch and breakfast 7 days a week to families. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Monday, you'll get your Monday, Tuesday, 2 meals a day. Wednesday, you get Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, you get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Mr. Kaseri and Rich Salverson and I have been driving to the families that are not able to get here to us. That's gone really well, and it's kind of a nice break from the rest of the chaos. This week, the Western New York Food Bank has offered to partner with us. So this week, we will be also delivering backpacks of food to families. It's a small bag of groceries. It's not intended to be a meal or something like Blue Apron. It really is just some supplementary food. But we got our first delivery this week, so that'll be going out Wednesday. At the onset of this, when they declared it a national disaster, I had applied for Fema funds, and our application was approved. We won't actually put in our expenses until probably early, well, they have to be in by September. So we'll start doing that as soon as we have a good bird's eye view of what we can include, and we'll probably include more than they'll accept, but I'm going to try to put everything related to COVID-19 into that FEMA application. We cannot put in loss of revenue, but we can put in any other expenses, administrative expenses, time worked on cleaning supplies, masks, anything that we've purchased additionally related to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm doing a lot of other things remotely, and we've had some staff in doing things non-remotely as well. We're doing our internal audit right now. We're going to be doing that remotely. So I've sent forms out to everyone who owns a piece of it and asked for them to fix them up and send them back to me. And then we're going to do the interviews via phone. This year we are going to start looking at doing a piece of the technology audit. And I've directed the auditors towards Nick so he can kind of work out a plan for that, since our technology is even different than what it was a few months ago. So he can decide what he wants to have looked at first, and that's something that they'll discuss before we present that plan to the board. From a budget perspective, you're going to take a look at the first glance, but I'm sure all of you are aware there's going to be 3 periods of review, and during those periods, the state can decide to take money back at any time. And in talking to other business officials, what we're looking at is we just have no idea what the governor's going to suggest. So he could say that they're taking money back for next year's budget, but he could delay payments for this year or not make non-payments at the end of this year. So the budget periods are going to be, the first one will be April 30th. So I know we're planning on having a budget vote on the 9th, on May 9th, and I would hope that we'll still be able to.
May 5th.
I'm sorry, May 5th. We'll still have to look at we'll still have to look at what happens on the end of this month. Other than that, things are going well, and we'll talk about the budget that we're going to be presenting to you and where we're at right now. I think we've made some great headway in a lot of the areas.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, Patty, can you just give a quick update on the facilities and some of where we are on the projects and even the renderings for the new project?
So we have some renderings for the new project. We have a picture, we have a rendering of the library and one of the facilities plan. Today you'll be approving the seeker. We have not yet had work start on the gallery space, and it is because the contractor that we selected, the subcontractor, has not responded yet. So I will be sending them a letter this week, probably tomorrow, making sure that they understand that we're declaring them essential workers. We have the batting cages, the fence posts are all in, they've been cemented in. We're waiting for the pad to be poured based on the weather, and the weather really hasn't cooperated in the way that we'd want it to. But once that cement pad is in, they're ready to roll the fence on, and it looks like the work that they've done on it now actually looks very good. So we're closing out. We're waiting for 2 other contractors to provide us the as-built, and then we'll be closed out on time, which is June 30th. Is that what you're looking for? Okay.
Katie, I have a question. Are we expecting anything to cost more because of the fact that we have to, I mean, they're essential workers, but we still have to maintain social distancing protocols and.
For the capital contractors, no. They can really work not on top of each other. The outdoor work has not been an issue at all. The indoor work, they should be able to social distance. They should be able to provide, even if they're not, they'll be able to work with masks on or face coverings. So that has not been an issue. So they should be fine.
Okay, good.
And I do want to just give a shout out to our child nutrition staff who has really been working tirelessly to pack these lunches and make them, and to all of our volunteers who have been showing up to help hand the lunches out. Kudos to all of them. They've been tremendous, and I'm sure it's starting to wear on them because it's grinding work.
Patty, do you know, do you have how many meals reserved so far?
I don't have a total meals. It's been increasing a little every day. The last round we handed out 240 plus our 67, so 240, 67, about 300, but that's 2 meals each. So the last per day, if you include the 2 meals per day that we're giving out, we're talking probably 600 meals a day plus.
Okay.
So, you know, it's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're up to 11 students in our daycare center. And shout out to the Y2. They were able to pull it together really quickly and come in and create a daycare. And I dropped them off some lunches in the morning and breakfast. So they've been great.
We can't thank you enough, and everyone who's been working so hard to make sure that everyone is fed and taken care of. So thank you. All right, Mr. Xeri, what you got?
Obviously, I put out the weekly emails to the staff, and I put out weekly emails to the community. So much of that comprises kind of where we're at, and so hopefully that the community is able to have a good gauge on kind of where we're at and how we're dealing with this very unique situation. I think the good thing, since March 15th, our first Sunday night meeting, we had Lance and Jody at that meeting, and they've continued to remain a part of our a watchful eye on our administrative team meeting. So it's been a nice opportunity for the Board of Education to have much more close interaction in terms of our day-to-day work and how we're trying to work our way through this, again, very unique situation. So, I mean, just in terms of a update, obviously the governor has, since we last spoke, the governor has now extended the New York pause through May 15th. So technically schools are closed through May 14th. However, you saw in that video response to a question from a reporter, you know, it remains very doubtful if schools will be open. But we continue to operate under the closing guidelines that the governor, under his executive orders, has established. So, you know, we're remaining hopeful that perhaps we can get back for 4 or 5 weeks. But, you know, I think that given all that the state is dealing with and the issues that are at play, I think the feeling is that, you know, education, for better or worse, has kind of got it under control, or at least has its house under control. Certainly that is the case for Lewiston-Porter. And, you know, again, just tremendous work that's being done. And I can't speak more highly of our staff and our teaching faculty and our administrators, Dr. Lyon and Mr. Hill, for their work in terms of maintaining continuity of learning. That has been obviously extremely unique, but I think we've handled it very well from a district standpoint. So, you know, beginning the process with the mitigation of regression, building some capacity for our staff and for our students and for our families to understand how it works. And now, you know, I do think that while it's never a perfect scenario for us to have held and now moving into new learning come May 1st and having a shortened probably 6 or maybe 6 week or 7 week final marking period, you know, I think that will bode well in terms of trying to advance new learning. But, you know, this is not what any parent or any family wanted or expected. I mean, we don't homeschool. We send our students to school, and that's what parents are hoping to do, you know. So I'm sure it's exceptionally difficult for parents, particularly if they're trying to juggle their own work lives online, or perhaps they are an essential worker and has to try to figure all that out while their children are home. So we're trying to keep that all in the back of our mind. And I do think, and I'd like to give kudos to Mr. Hill. He's put out a lot of tutorials for families on using our technology to enhance the learning experience at home. So I think that's been tremendous. But that, you know, like I say, for better or for worse, that has gone exceptionally well. And Betty pointed to the response that we received from our survey that was put out. And I would like to say that we are individually reaching out to, there was an opportunity for those families that are struggling to indicate that, and we are reaching out to those families individually to help them, you know, work through this very difficult process of you know, keeping their students and their children on focus on what needs to be done at school. It's very difficult. So, you know, so that has gone relatively well. Obviously, Dr. Grupka talked about the food service and the health and the daycare, and that's gone exceptionally well. I can't thank Dr. Grupka enough. She is a rock and has been doing an amazing job. Everybody's been doing an amazing job, but she's there every day, and she has really been helping me tremendously moving the district forward in this very, very difficult time. So thank you very much, Patty, very much for all of that. Where we're going from here, we had a very good meeting. We had a very good 18 meeting today. Some of the things that are most concerning to folks are obviously the end of year events and activities. We began to talk a little bit about 5th grade graduation and what that might look like and how we can do that maybe in an online type opportunity. Moving up day, 8th grade moving up day, mud is always a fun experience for the kids, and we're trying to maybe develop something that people can go to and click to that can be very celebratory for the 8th graders. But then, of course, the big concern is our class of 2020. I'd like to give a shout out to the LPUT. LPUT has raised over $10,000, I think, and some of that is to support these signs that are going to be going on senior lawns. And I think that's really a great thing. So thank you, Brett and Jill and the LPUT for that hard work. I would like to also thank Paul and Patty for helping put all the green ribbons around the campus. They look beautiful, and I do see them around the community. We're tying a green ribbon around the old oak tree, so to speak, in honor of our class of 2020 and our healthcare workers and responders. So that's gained some momentum, and I hope it continues to grow. In terms of the class of 2020, so one of the things is senior recognition night, the scholarship night. We started to talk a little bit about that, and Mr. Rolls, along with Mr. Everett and the counseling staff, and Sandy Girasol and Lara McFarland, our new clerical, who was kind of be taking over where Beth Profeta used to be. We're going to be working on an opportunity to obviously get all those scholarships out. The deadline's going to be a little bit later, and then they're going to create a kind of a virtual scrolling presentation showing the brief introduction, the scholarship, perhaps a picture of the person who's giving the award, little description of the scholarship, and then the picture of the recipient, the senior who has won the award. So we hope to have that up. That'll, by mid-June. We gave a deadline of June 15th to have that up so that could be available for families. The other piece is the prom. No idea where that's going to go, but we continue to keep it out there down at Riverworks. And then finally, graduation. Kicking around a number of scenarios. I did reach out to Art Park. They're still hopeful that something can be put together. It might be very different than what we're accustomed to, and there might be a limited number of folks if we are able to use the theater. Even if we aren't able to use the theater, there was the possibility of using the grass hill on the back of the theater, where the grass seating is, the lawn seating. But again, it would be very, very limited in terms of, we would have the class there, but then there would be limited family that would be allowed to actually be at the ceremony, and probably live streaming. So a lot of school districts are looking at virtual. There are a couple companies out there that are already selling. They'll take over and do the whole darn thing for you virtually. And that's certainly something that I've got a few of those emails, and I'm looking at that. But I still am hopeful that we can have some sort of a face-to-face experience with good 6 feet between each face. So we'll see how that all plays out. But we are looking at all of these things, and some things started to roll today, so more details to go out. I do get a lot of, when I put out my emails, the seniors oftentimes, because I send them to the students as well, I get a number of responses from the seniors, and I know they're frustrated. I know they're disappointed. I know that they're looking for answers. They want something concrete. What kid doesn't, and I just don't have those answers right now. So we're hopefully in the next few weeks, those things will develop. But I think that's where we sit right now.
Okay. And
any questions?
Anyone have anything for Paul? Well, on behalf of the board, we need to express, our thanks to you for the leadership that you've provided in this district, because you have gone above and beyond, really keeping everyone together and focused and moving forward and sane. And we owe you a great thanks. So you've definitely gotten everybody through this to date.
Well, I appreciate that, but I feel like Governor Cuomo, I'll thank you for doing your job. But thank you very much.
Between you and Governor Cuomo, I think just the facts and keeping everyone moving forward. And thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Right. At this point, we are going to move ahead and to the portion of the agenda. Colonel Dickinson, Policy Committee Review. Take it away.
All right, there's 9 policies that we will be approving with our second read today. The first one, the drug and alcohol testing for the safety-sensitive employees, including school bus drivers. The change to that one was adding the drug and alcohol clearinghouse. Is required now by law that we must collect information and maintain it and report it to the clearinghouse. 7530, the child abuse and maltreatment, that almost regularly gets small adjustments just on responsibilities for reporting allegations. And then again, training that's required for reporting it. And then the last 7 are just our annual reviews. We're into the 8,000s now, the instructional side of it. And there were very minor changes there. In the section we were in, the 8200s deals a lot with the academic freedom and the patriotism, citizenship, and character. So again, we're in line with everything, just reviewing those annually. We did finish the procedures review. I think it was the last day that we were in session. We happened to get together. So we are up to date there, and it's just hopefully at some time we can get together and look at the total procedures package. And I see Mr. happy that we got through all of them, but we just need to do one final review on that. So unless there's any questions.
All right, anyone have any questions for Lance?
I just like to say, of course, I've been superintendent now going into my 6th year, and of course, all the years prior under Mr. Roser, there had always been hope and prayer that we would actually have a procedures manual, regulations manual. And
Hope is not a plan, Paul.
we finally got it. We finally have it. So very good work, Colonel Dickinson. Very good work.
All right, moving on to our claims audit review for January and February 2020. Did anyone have any questions? Pretty straightforward. Everything was on the up and up. Patty, anything you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I still have Debbie coming in every 2 weeks for payables, and Lynn comes in periodically. Janet's here doing payroll, so everything, there's still work on this end and they're still getting it done. So hats off to them as well.
All right, thank you. At this point, then, we're going to move on. Patty, you can keep the floor, and we'll have our budget discussion.
Okay, I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you. Let's see. Basic. So let's see if I can do it this way.
Very fancy, Patty. Very fancy.
Yeah, I'm trying. Like, I don't know if it's going to come out the same in Google Slides because that's not what I made it in.
Why don't you just share it in PowerPoint?
Here we go. All right, so it's not.
You can scroll through it. We can see it.
All right.
Yeah, it's
So,
good.
okay. So basically, again, we started this year, we looked at our budget goals, and our goals were to, well, at the beginning of this cycle, our goals were to maintain current programs and staff and increase. But as time progressed, we recognized that we weren't going to have the funding that we were hoping for. But we are still maintaining our current, really most of our current programs and all of our staff that we currently have. We are going to, you'll see that we're using some attrition to balance our budget, but we'll get to that later. We are keeping our one-on-one computing and our tech director in this budget, AP, honors enrichment programs, providing safe environments for students and staff, delivering a fiscally responsible budget, and a focus on updated strategic plan and student progress. This year is going to be, was a challenge, and I don't think the challenge is over. And next year, I'm warning you now, will not be better because salary and benefit increases just continue to climb. We still are faced with the minimum wage increases that were forced on us, contractual increases, lots of unfunded mandates. This year, we had a lot of special education increases. Transportation will continue to go up. Facilities requirements that were mandated to maintain. We're still dealing with the tax cap. Now we have additional pandemic expenses, and this pandemic there's a pandemic adjustment along with fiscal impact to the state and to schools. And right now we're not even sure exactly what that's gonna look like. So we worked off of some early estimates. So when we look at our proposed budget for 2021, there's very few places to get revenue. So our revenue increases right now are our tax levy and what we can use from fund balance. And our revenue decreases this year will be in state aid, both foundation and categorical aid. Our expenditure increases, the lion's share are going to be in health insurance, special education, and the wages and costs of employment. And those really are all tied into the cost of educating a student, so program costs. So there's not a lot we can do about those. Our expenditure decreases, we are going to eliminate positions through attrition. We did make cuts to programming and staff development, but hopefully we did it in a way that's strategic, so we're not completely cutting programs, we're scaling them down. And the programs that we did take out are ones that hopefully we won't be ready for next year as a result of some of the catch up that we're going to need to be doing. Sorry.
And not to interrupt, some of the programming is just simply put on pause. The New York State has pushed off implementation of all its next generation standards. So it really allowed us next year to focus on the essential, and we pushed off all of that implementation work. We'll continue to do it in-house, but in terms of major purchases and outside consultants to help us with that, we're holding off on that.
And we did decrease our supplies across the budget. So I review this every year just so that people are familiar with the steps. First, we calculated out the tax levy. Our tax levy this year, our 2% equals 2.625%. We project our local revenues, estimate our state aid, and right now, as I've said, we have a run, but we're not sure that that's where that run will even be at the end of this month. We assess our programs and costs, and then we analyze the levy to be used, and of course, the revenues must equal our expenditures, and then ultimately we'll divide we'll get a tax levy, which we're not there yet because I want to make sure we know what we're dealing with in terms of our final state aid. So our tax cap this year, our 2% tax cap is 2.625. It's a potential increase of 711,365. So our proposed tax levy this year will be 27,808,971. The number you're looking at was last year's, that 27 number. In this budget, to balance the budget, we will have to use $2 million of fund balance. it's not ideal, but we were looking at, from our initial budget, we took out over $1.2 million. And we did a lot of begging and pleading with insurance companies, with our workers' comp company, with other companies to see if, they would be willing to scale down their services so that we can maintain services. A lot happened to even get us to that 2 million. In our state aid, and I don't know why that's off a little bit, but in 1920 we got 17, 654, 768. In 2021, we are looking at 17, 525, plus about a $300,000 pandemic adjustment, which is what we think they're going to be taking away, either out of this year's or next year's aid, which brings us down to state aid that's really $429,000 less than the prior year. So with costs continually going up, having a $429,000 decrease in state aid is really devastating. So,
It's actually, well, Patty will show you in the next slide, that's actually from our original budget, the original the governor's original proposal. It's more significant than that.
right. So when we were looking at our original, these numbers don't line up. When we were looking at our original run, we were thinking that we were going to get 17.7, and we really only ended up with 17.225. So it's a big difference. And the cuts are across the board. We're losing some in high cost aid. We're losing some in BOCES aid. It's just not good news.
So I think that's important. I think that's important to recognize, because we had been budgeting revenues off the original proposal. Obviously, we lobbied in twice. We lobbied in Albany. We had great hope that, and actually there were significant increases in state aid from the governor's side. It was really just a matter of pulling out those expense-based aids, which, we were assured when Jody and Patty and I went to Albany in February that was going to happen. So we felt like we were in a pretty decent spot. So, if you look at what we've got going on there, I mean, that's almost a $600,000 difference from what we were assuming in state aid. And then you've got the pandemic adjustment that we are also kind of dealing with as well.
Right. So, every year we talk about this, there are some items in our budget that are budget neutral. So universal pre-K is 100% state funded, textbook, software, hardware, school library funding, and of course the school lunch program. So those are really zero cost to us. These were some of the things that we felt were really important that we leave in the budget. And while we did scale down the spending on these items, we will continue to have them as initiatives to support the strategic plan. So we will still be having Access Math, American Reading, that was supposed to be ERLA, sorry. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the community ed program, The Leader in Me, one-on-one computing, one district, one book, restorative justice, solution tree, and the strategic plan design committee will continue. So we really were able to maintain a lot of program in this budget. So
the only thing that's really up in the air is our community education program. We just don't. I mean, currently, right now, we don't have many of the instructors. Some of the instructors are a bit more senior, and so there's just some concerns there on their part, even running these classes. So we're going to make every attempt to continue, to have a community ed. We may need to put community ed on pause, hoping to reopen back up in spring of 2021. But we did have a meeting yesterday about community education. Obviously, it's been a hugely popular opportunity that we've brought back to the community. People love it. But, there's just great concern. If and when we do reopen, there are going to be significant guidelines for disinfecting the buildings each day. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on our cleaning staffs, and to have community ed running in the evenings and to have what I'm guessing will be significantly new requirements around disinfecting the buildings. It could be difficult. So we're taking all that into consideration. We want to continue to run community ed. Maybe we'll be able to run some of the courses, but it may not be as flourishing in the fall, with the hopes that it would be fully flourishing in the spring of 2021.
Paul, you and I had a chance to talk about this earlier today, but just to recap for everyone, as community ed for this current spring semester was canceled, everyone did receive a refund, correct?
Yeah, refunds were processed. I think the final batch was processed today. When I say processed, that means all the paperwork was done. Now it's got to go over to accounts payable, and actually the checks need to be cut. But that process, I believe they've all been processed, and now they're at accounts payable to be processed to have checks cut.
Okay. And, you know, also, it's just not the possibility to take community ed to a distance learning, you know, potential. It's just not, that's just not something that's available to us at this point. So, you know,
I don't want to say, I know that it might be at a limited basis, Jody, only because, again, some of the instructors are a bit old school in their approach. A lot of it is the hands-on cooking and,
right.
you know, I mean, maybe you could do a little Zumba virtually, I don't know, but
It's a very popular class.
it is, it's
Very
highly,
popular.
it's super popular.
So right now everything is just up in the air, and we'll keep everybody posted.
Hi, Dave. What's going on?
Well, I just don't
Budget.
question to him, and I got an answer I really didn't expect. He says yes.
Oh, awesome.
He said normally we wouldn't do it because we couldn't do it for everybody, but he
Hello?
said right now because of everything.
You know.
Okay, sorry, Patty, continue.
It's okay. So we had to make some difficult decisions to get to where we are, and some of the decreases that we had to implement. We will be eliminating 5 teaching positions through attrition and transfer. So there will be a substantial amount of movement next year of teachers. We are eliminating 5 teacher aide positions through attrition and 1 cleaner position through attrition. We took decreases across departments in building and contractual and supply codes, and decreases in staff development and contractual services across departments and buildings. And, you know, hats off to Dr. Lyon and Mr. Casari, who, you know, this is painful. It's very hard to be trying to build programs and grow as a district and have to cut the things you've worked so hard on. So these were some really painful decisions, and in the end, I think we all agree we are very, very pleased to be able to say it's not impacting staff.
Some people, you know, there are going to be some people in new positions. There are going to be some people who have been teaching at a grade level, perhaps, for a number of years that may be in a new experience next year. But based on everything that we can see, we're hopeful that we can maintain all of our current employees and just make these moves through attrition.
Questions?
Of course I have questions.
Okay.
I thought,
Can you give me what? So as as a general idea of about how much of our percentage of our fund balance that 200 or that 2 million accounts for?
So
is it taking a lot is what I'm asking?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's probably about a third of our fund balance.
Okay.
It's not ideal. As I've said,
we usually take quite a bit of fund balance.
Yeah.
So
last year was 1.7. This year we'll end up. So this is going to be such a weird year, and I'm. So basically, you know, we're not using services the end of the year. So we are going to have an incredible fund balance this year. What we won't have is we might not even have the aid they're suggesting.
Right.
So
that was
so
my
think
second
about-
question. My second question is, what do we do if we go into this budget and then, this second or third wave of cuts comes around from the state and they say, oh, psych, we're not giving you this money. What do we cut then?
Well, then we're going to have to sit down and think about how that's going to look. So right now, we have been told to hold off paying transportation because we're not transporting kids. We shouldn't be paying for services not rendered. Even though we have a contract, it's a contract to deliver children to school.
Right.
So things like that. So we won't get the aid on that, but we won't have any of the expenditures. Now, our aid is not 100% of our expense.
Right.
So there will be fund balance theoretically left in that. There will be fund balance in some of our other programs.
So some of that $2 million is going to be money that's left over from this year that we're not spending because we don't have kids in school.
Correct. But the aid numbers that we have that are categorical aid based on spending may not even be as high as they're projecting at this point, because we won't be using all of the BOE services that we were planning on using at the end of the year because there's nobody here to provide them to.
Right.
We won't, some of the services we will still be spending money on. Even the supplies at the end of the year. I mean, we're buying supplies, but we're not buying the supplies that we were used to buying. So there'll be a different fund balance, and it's just going to be the weirdest budget year I've lived through yet.
Betty, I will say though that we've taken basically that entire we've assumed losing about another 300,000 in there.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So that's a cushion for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that thinking that, of course, the governor's
we can't start a year and then lay off in the middle of the year. We can't do that.
Yeah, and you know what? In talking to some of my more veteran colleagues at the superintendent level, back the last time that happened, Betty, was 92, 93, and there were mid-year cuts and layoffs.
What a disruption!
I mean, it's certainly something that we may have to face. However, couple good. I mean, if there's any silver lining, couple of things. First of all, there was some discussion today with the district superintendents, or with Clerk, Godshaw, and my other Orleans Niagara superintendent. So, the governor's talking about without this aid to local governments from the federal government, he could have been looking at up to a 50% reduction in school aid. As of this morning, even without the passage of that bill, which just passed at 4 o'clock, that had been narrowed down to about a 20% reduction, which would still be huge for us. You figure we're at about 9 million and change. So, 20%, it's like 1.8 million, I mean, which is, if you recall GEA, that's kind of where that was at, which was devastating. So, I mean, if the hopeful pieces with this, almost $500 billion second wave stimulus focused directly on state and local governments, a significant portion of it. And listening to Senator Schumer, it's very specific, a significant portion of that, even going to the states, is earmarked towards schools and education. So I'm hopeful that we're going to be okay there, but we're going to have to continue to work. If we dodge a bullet on this April 30th, the next adjustment is May 1 to June 30, and then the following adjustment period is July 1 to December 31. So, we're going to have to be thinking about how much deeper we could go.
And then the other question I had, Patty, is I think I heard you say you still hope to have some sort of budget hearing on May 5th. Have we received anything from them on when we're going to actually have a budget vote and an election? I mean, the candidates were due yesterday.
Yeah, I had on my call today, again, this is all speculation, Betty. There has been nothing, which is about as frustrating as it can be from the governor's office. This all has to be done through executive order. There's a thought that June 9th may be a vote of some kind. They haven't even decided whether it's going to be, it may be a full mail-in vote. And the controversy versus mail-in versus in-person, and they're dealing with all of that. But they're going to have to waive because let's assume June 9th is the vote. If you go
Right.
back 45 days, that's this Friday.
Right.
And nobody out there, I mean, everybody in Orleans, Niagara is going to try to adopt the budget. We would be one of the earliest. Our next meeting is May 5th. I know that Wheatfield's May 6th. Mark Laurie over in Niagara Falls is May 7th. I know that there's a bunch of them the following week on May 11th and May 12th. So, you know, we're all not going to be able. So what's going to happen is we'll let this ruminate. We'll see what happens come April 30. If we have to make any further cuts to this budget before we finally present it to you. But the hope would be that what you're seeing here is largely what we will be presenting to you on May 5th as a resolution to adopt. And then Marissa would begin, you know, the next day would get that out to the newspapers to post as our official notice. So, I mean, that's what we're playing off of. But we're clearly not going to make the 45 days, up to 49 days. But yet there has been no, you know, there's no penalty for not doing that, or at least they haven't mentioned that. So we'll have to see where that goes. In terms of board members, Danielle Mullen, thank you very much for getting your stuff in. We're happy to have Danielle Mullen, who's been a great board member for us this year as a candidate for the Board of Education. But we, you know, we clearly passed the deadline on Friday. We're still going to accept them. I had someone call yesterday asking about the process and pointed them to the website. And I think Marissa actually even emailed the individual the information. But you know, at this point, a candidate is not able to garner the 25 signatures that they need. So
No, and actually they were told not to go door to door.
Right, exactly. So my answer to you is I just
don't know.
I don't know, and it's unfortunate, but we're going to just have to watch and wait, and you know, we're just going to have to be as you know, as on top of it as best we can. You know, our goal will be May 5th to have a resolution around the budget, to have a resolution for the budget vote. So we do have some placeholders in this one, right, Marissa?
Yes, we do.
It basically says that we will have this vote, but we just don't know the date yet or the amount.
Okay.
Other questions?
Thank you, Patty. I think that, you know, what you've put forward is, you know, it meets the budget goals that we began with. And, you know, we have to look, next year is going to be obviously extremely challenging because we don't know what it holds in store for us.
Yeah.
And then we have to look at what the following year is going to look like. You know, when, you know, you talked about some of the services that you know, we're not going to be, you know, we're not offering at this point. So that's, you know, you mentioned that it would be, you know, kind of a budgetary savings from this year, but that's also going to affect our expense-driven aid for next year.
Yeah.
And then going forward 2 years, what's ERS and TRS going to look like when we talk about the, you know, what the stock market is doing right now?
That's going to be an issue as well.
Looking, you know, I think that, you know, I know that we understand, and, you know, we'll do our best to have the community understand too that it's not just next year, it's, you know, going forward, and we're being as responsible and planning ahead as much as possible. And we also understand that the needs of our students are going to be much greater next year. I mean, this is traumatic for students, and we don't know, you know, what it's going to look like. And we can't go into next year thinking that we're going to just lay people off in the middle of the year. That would be devastating, not only to our staff that are doing such a fantastic job right now, but to our students who are going to need that continuity next year. So it's unprecedented, and, you know, I think that this budget needs, you know, rises to the occasion, and we're going to do the best that we can. So thank you for all your efforts with us. Okay, anybody else? All right, we're going to move on to board member comments. Gemma Fournier.
Hi, everyone. First, thank you to everyone. We could keep, identifying every individual, but I think everybody knows here, we could thank from Lewiston-Porter administration down. I'll just say a few things helping our families with the new learning format and understanding what their needs are. The parents and the kids, I think it's very difficult for them to understand this change. And thank you to everyone at Lewiston-Porter that's helping the families. Am I still on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, I was gone there for a minute. I'm looking at myself. No, I'm sorry. So anyways, understanding that that transition for these families is so important, and understand, and then Dr. Grupka saying about all the meals that are provided. I think that's just so wonderful that we are doing that, and for the volunteers that are helping, making sure that those are all set up. Also, childcare. I think that's important. Our kids are getting older, but for the people that are still the essential workers that are out there, it's important that we have that for them. During this COVID crisis, it's difficult, but we have to keep in mind the families that have been personally affected, and as Mr. Kuseri mentioned, also putting the green ribbons out and how we're recognizing class of 2020 and all the workers, the frontliners, the essential workers. I think it's great as a community, and to show that we're all coming together at such a tough time. And not enough words to say thank you to everybody. That's it.
Thank you.
That's good.
Anor.
I would echo a lot of what Gemma said. I'm overwhelmed by the inventiveness, if you will, on behalf of the students, certainly by the teachers. I'm exceptionally sensitive and pleased with Mr. Rowles coming on board at the time that basically everything fell apart, just as he was starting to build some relationships in the high school. So hang in there, keep going for us. And thank you everybody for really taking it above and beyond when you don't know what's around the corner the next day. And particularly Dr. Grupka working on the budget when all I see are headlines from the various places saying, oh, it's going to be worse than we thought last week and the week before and the week before. I thank you. Thank you for keeping your head on straight in trying to take us through. What else are we going to do, right? Thank you, Penny.
All right. Daniel Mullen.
I, of course, would just echo what everybody has already said. I think everybody, from Mr. Kuseri down to the teachers, they've just done a phenomenal job informing everybody, reaching out to people, making sure everybody's okay. As you know, I have kids in each building, and the communication from all of the administrators has just been fantastic and prompt and thorough. I just think everybody's done a phenomenal job. And of course, thank you, Patty, for the budget work. I know I can't imagine how that's keeping you busy. And I also just want to reiterate that I think that the survey was a fantastic idea to the families, because I have, of course, heard a little bit of chatter here and there from different people about how they were feeling. And the questions in that survey really got to the heart of some of the things that people were feeling. So I think it's really good to see those results and then to have the ability to reach out to those families who are struggling. So I think that was really a good idea, and I was happy that that was done. So just thank you, everybody. Great job.
Okay, thank you. Sarah Wester.
Yep, as always, appreciate all the work everybody's put into this to keep everything going and to trying to keep as much cohesiveness as possible. I love to hear that we're providing beyond education as far as with the child care and with the food service. I know the dedication that it takes to put those meals together and to get them out and to get them delivered. But I think it emphasizes how important schools are as community centers.
So it's nice to see that that's reinforced and that we're doing such outreach out into the community. It's also interesting to see how this necessity is pushing this innovation. It's going to, moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see how education evolves and changes. But I think that what we're doing is quite a positive, I guess, influence in our education by doing like all these Zoom meetings, and the teachers doing all of their outreaches and the different things that they're getting involved in. And I also too want to thank the community because I think that this takes a lot of patience to be able to learn these new formats and to keep your students engaged and involved, and then also for their support, because without that, we would not be successful or as successful.
Okay, thank you. Betty Warwick.
Just more dittoing the thoughts of, thanking all of you. You've done a fantastic job. I've been able to see some of the teachers, how they're reaching out to the students through my own student, and also just seeing them on social media, various social media platforms and stuff like that, reaching out and keeping in touch that way with some of the students, and they're doing such a fantastic job. One of the things that I've noticed that keeps coming back to me is how we could never be prepared for something like this. It's just something that's we never thought would happen, and yet so many of the things that we've done over the years have prepared us for this. I mean, the fact that we already had the one-on-one technology, we were able to roll that out to our families, and the fact that we were already on all these different various platforms that, like the Seesaw and stuff like that, like we're using it in ways that we didn't think we would, but we were prepared. And it's just amazing that we were able to respond the way we were as quickly as we were, and how fortunate we are as a district, because a lot of districts are not dealing with this as well as we've been able to, because they don't have those resources, they didn't have those things in place. So I really just wanted to give a shout out to everybody who were more prepared than they ever thought that they were for this kind of thing to happen. And even things like already having the relationship with the Y and being able to put that in place so easily because we had that relationship already. Things like this really have come to me as being like, wow, we were more prepared than we thought we were. And I've been really grateful for that. And just great job, everybody. And hopefully things get back to normal really soon. I know I've been reading some emails like from the curriculum office and from the technology office. Everybody's already thinking about next year and what's going to go on next year. We are going to have things that we're going to have to do differently next year, for not even just cleaning, but everything might look differently. Class sizes might have to be smaller, desks might have to be further apart. All these things might have to happen. And I know everyone's already thinking about them. And it's just a lot, and everybody's stressed, but everybody's handling it really well. And I really want to thank you.
Thank you. Colonel Dickinson.
All right. A lot of dittos like everybody else, but I'll use the words of Paul Casari. Thank you for doing your job. You've done it exceptionally well. You've kept us informed.
Actually, Governor Cuomo, I just stole it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to steal it too.
Right.
But you've kept us informed. You've kept the community informed, and especially from the social emotional side of it. I don't want Patty to get a big head, so I'm going to have a shout out to Heather, because on the weekly meetings, Heather has been the link for the curriculum between all of the buildings. She's making sure we're doing what we need to do curriculum-wise, and also looking forward to next year. So she also is doing a good job. And then to the administrators out there and to the staff, I was really touched by the videos that were put on there, not having kids in school, just watching the kids giving the pledge and leading exercises for their classes and just tying everybody together. That was very heartwarming.
I just want to again take this opportunity to thank everyone for the work that has gone into this. I think that it really just shows, what Sarah has said, that the school, we've always known it, but the school is the heart of this community. And it's not that we've invented anything new. It's just that we've been so able to really show what it is that we do. It's not just providing an education, it's providing the emotional support, feeding people, bringing people together. It's what the school has always done, and now it's just become so apparent and so important during this. And also I want to thank all of our teachers and administrators and staff for just the incredible creativity that has gone into everything that they have been doing, and the thoughtfulness. Like, it's really reaching everybody where they are and understanding that people are scared and that people are, things are so uncertain and they need that rock that the school gives them. So I just really want to thank everybody, and including shout out to our Board of Education, because everyone has just been there and supportive of everything that's going on. Paul mentioned that Lance and I have been, in with the administrative meetings every week, and that's been wonderful. I mean, just to see the leadership and to see the level that everyone is operating on. I want everyone in the community to know that it's just amazing. So at this point, I'm going to move on. Since we don't have any cake, I'm going to move on to district operations. I would like to move to approve M1, the minutes from our March 17th, where we were all actually together. Remember that? Remember we could all be together? If I may have a second.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? So carried. I would like to move to approve our consent agenda for financial operations, NF1 through NF4, if I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried. We have no old business, so let's move on to new business. I would like to move to approve NA1, approval for the district clerk to implement the publication of the annual vote notice, if I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried. I would like to move to approve NA2, approval for the seeker, if I may have a second.
Jody, excuse me, you did it a little backwards.
Yep.
They're reversed.
NA1 was the seeker?
Oh, okay. You know what? I'm going from the one that I printed because I turned off my screen.
Okay.
For my bandwidth issue.
Yes.
So hold on.
NA1 is the seeker?
Okay. Give me 1 second then.
Okay.
Then he was all sassing me about my bandwidth, and I turned off my PC. Bring it up on my phone, Marissa.
Do you want me to just read it to you and then you could call for the?
I also have it if you want me.
Sorry, we have to do this in particular order.
Okay, so approval of the seeker negative declaration for proposed 2024 capital improvement project, which is NA1. If I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried.
Nick, for the votes, can you turn on Sarah and Betty just so that they can vote verbally as well? I know we're trying to do that. So if you could turn, thank you. Sarah.
And Danielle.
Okay. So then we actually already voted on the approval of the annual notice publication, which I still can't say, which is NA2. So we will correct that.
Yep.
And that just gives Marissa the authorization once we have some information to post that. All right, I would like to move to approve NA3, approval for the district clerk to implement the publication of the annual vote notice. Let me have a second.
Second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried.
And,
Like to move
and
to
Betty,
approve
that was just a recommendation from Jeff Stone to kind of, as a placeholder, just to kind of keep the normal timeline moving forward, but we recognize that we don't have a date for that yet.
So they're not duplicates, they're two different things.
Correct. The first was for
Okay.
the capital project. This is just for the act that we're going to have this vote in the future.
once they let us know when.
Yes.
Correct.
All right. I would like to move to approve NA4 policy revision acceptance of the second reading for the policies as listed. If I may have a second.
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 All in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? So carried. All right. I'd like to move to approve NA5. This is the approval for the Orleans Niagara administrative budget. If I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
opposed? So carried. I would like to move to approve NA6, election of the Orleans Niagara BOCES board member for Niagara Falls School District, Vincent Kinsemi. If I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? So carried. I'd like to move to approve NA7, election of Board of Orleans Niagara BOCES board member for Newfane Central School District. If I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried. I'd like to move to approve NA8, election of the Orleans Niagara BOCES board member for Star Point. If I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried. I'd like to move to approve NA9, election of the Orleans Niagara BOCES board member for Barker Central School District. If I may have a second.
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 All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried. I'd like to move to approve NA10, Orleans Niagara BOCES Board of Education member from Lindenville Central School District. If I may have a second.
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 All in favor?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Go Lindenville. I'd like to move to approve NA11, elections of the BOCES board member for Niagara Wheatfield Central School District. If I may have a second.
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 All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried. I'd like to move to approve NA12, election of our Orleans Niagara BOCES Board of Education member. This is Wendy Swearingen. If I may have a second.
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 All in favor?
Yes.
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 Go Wendy.
The Lindenville Central board member will be notified by Pony Express.
I'd like to move to approve NA13, approval of change orders as described. If I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried. I'd like to move to approve NA14, approval of the IPA contract. If I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? So carried. Moving on to pupil personnel, I'd like to move to approve MP1, recommendations for CSE placement and amendments. If I may have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? So carried. I'd like to move on to personnel. This is our consent agenda. Hey, were we supposed to have CPSE recommendations, Marissa, or were just CSE?
It was just NP1. They didn't have any for
Okay,
preschool.
no problem. I just noticed
Okay.
that it was.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to our consent agenda for personnel. I would like to move to approve that. And actually it's just limited to 2 retirements. Mark Herbst and Carol Matthews.
On the question, Jody, on the question,
Yeah.
I just want to, I noticed that both Mark and Carol were viewing the board meeting tonight, and I want to extend to them my congratulations and thanks for moving toward their retirement experience. It's a huge step. They are two, first of all, outstanding people, great long-standing employees with the district in very important positions, working with some of our most neediest students. And both have been outstanding in those positions. I would like to thank them for helping me be a better superintendent. They have represented their students well. They have represented their colleagues well. And I know that this is a big step for them, and I wish them well as they move into that next phase of their life.
Jumped ahead of me. I was waiting for the second, then I was going to discussion. But I want to also extend our congratulations to both Mark and Carol for their retirement. I know both of them, and as you said, they're just fantastic people. Shout out to Mark Herbst, who has worked with my son Michael and has accomplished with him things that no one else had been able to do as far as a speech therapist. And I think that I wish both of you a very happy retirement. So at that point, did I have a second, Marissa?
Second.
No, you
Second.
did not.
Okay.
But Lance,
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, you two can retire. You've been approved. At this point, I would like to move to adjourn tonight's meeting, if I may have a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
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 Jody, if I could just also give a quick shout out. I noticed on Colonel Jack James from Virginia was listening, our great supporter from the class of 1958. I know he's working closely on that 58 scholarship and the Margaret Tower James scholarship, and wanted to make sure that he knew that we will be reaching out from the high school, working with our guidance office and Lara McFarland and Sandy to make sure that that all looks well and gets put into shape. So it was nice to see him on, and I hope he's doing well down in Virginia.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, you're welcome, Jack. Good to see you.
Right,
All
now
right,
the
thank
meeting
you.
is
Okay, we're adjourned.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Be safe.
Everyone.
Nice job, guys. Nice job.
See you guys at happy hour.
Night-night.
Thank you, Nick.
Good
night, everybody.
Good night.
Say good night, John boy.